I'm going to tell you, the frustrating thing for me as I've been picking my way through this research and getting things ready to publish is that most of the evidence that's out there focuses on medication or counseling. Now, I do not want to diminish the power of antidepressant medication and counseling. I have used both in my lifetime. And I can say, quite frankly, that both antidepressant medication at one point in time and counseling at other points in time probably saved my life. So I think it's very valuable treatment. But what's frustrating to me is that we don't have the same body of evidence for exercise and depression. And what we do have shows that exercise is a potent treatment. Now, this is correlational, it's association, and we'll keep talking about that idea. We can't really prove with human beings in this type of study. We can't grow 50 people up in the lab and have them not exercise for 80 years, and then 50 people in another controlled environment and have them exercise and see what happens. So we have to be careful of that word proven. There's enough strong relationship, correlational evidence that we can safely say that exercise is a potent treatment. And now some of the main websites, agencies are starting to also list exercise in their list of treatments, like the National Institute of Mental Health. And but I don't think the NIH does, interestingly. Anyway, why? Why? I bang my hand on the table, but it would be loud in your ears right now. There's just not very many high quality studies. And why would that be? Well, a lot of it has to do with who pays for research. So I'll tell you, research is very expensive to perform. You either have to be a tenured professor with an active lab and graduate assistants that are paid for, or you have to be someone, with the right credentials who's willing to write and receive a grant to do research on this. But funding is very hard to get. And so do you think that a pharmaceutical company is going to fund a high-powered research project on the efficacy of exercise? Probably not. So nobody's trying to do anything bad. It's just those studies aren't out there. But we have enough to go by. So we can say safely that increased exercise is associated with a reduction of anxiety and depression. And we can feel pretty good about that. Now, because the data is all over the road, I would say that a good place to find high quality evidence is a meta-analysis, a systematic review with a meta-analysis. And a meta-analysis is when the researcher takes the data from lots and lots of studies and then does more statistical analysis on their results. So it's a way that we can accumulate a lot of information, a lot of data, and boil it down to one finding. And so good systematic reviews, meta-analysis are invaluable as an evidence-based practitioner. So from Xu et al. In 2016, through his work, he concluded that they would need 1,000 studies that said that exercise doesn't help in order to disqualify the level of current evidence. All right, so just talking about the 6 dimensions of well-being, and this is from our sports psychology book. We're looking at self-acceptance, having good relationships with others, having a sense of autonomy, being self-determined, self-directed. Also, environmental mastery, feeling like you actually can do things. Now, this is also tied in very strongly with the science of motivation that we'll get to later in the semester. Personal growth, being able to take time, which you guys are doing by going to school. You've got that one checked. And having a purpose, having a purpose-driven life. And again, because you have ideals and goals of things that you want to achieve, you guys have that. Now, not all people do, remember. You might have people come to you that really don't spend time on personal growth and don't really feel like they have any purpose. So that might be where you can, as you're teaching them how to do that squat properly, you can help them kind of start to uncover their own why. Why are they working hard? Why are they doing this? All right, so let's get right down to exercise and the reduction of anxiety and depression. So, what do you think? Does it have to be high intensity aerobic activity? Well, it doesn't. It's so exciting. You can do other things. You can do strength training, you can do yoga, you can do Zumba, you can do gardening. Walking is a wonderful activity. And just getting to our terminology as a review for you. So it can be anaerobic, which is like short-term or short burst activities. It can be aerobic, longer-term activities that get that heart rate going. And so any of these things are valuable for the reduction of anxiety and depression. Very easy exercise prescription to write. Make sure you're familiar with the terms acute and chronic. Acute or short-term effects are often referred to as responses to exercise, whereas chronic or long-term effects are often considered adaptations to exercise. Just make sure that you're familiar with those terms as we move forward. Starting with the reduction of anxiety. So the acute effects of exercise, that immediate response of aerobic exercise, is that we see a reduced state anxiety and increased tranquility. So state anxiety is something that is related to a specific event or outcome, something like a test anxiety, maybe the feeling you have before finals week. So it is attributed specifically to an event or outcome. And aerobic exercise helps to reduce that, which is good to know. Maybe taking a 20-minute jog would be better for you than sitting there and cramming hour after hour after hour. Maybe going to fitness for finals. Hey, how about that? Post-exercise reductions, however, tend to return. So this is like a daily dose. This is like a daily treatment. We can say to our patients and clients, and even to ourselves, that this quick workout or this long workout or whatever workout you can fit in is going to help reduce anxiety, but it isn't like it's going to last for the rest of our lives. So regular exercise is important. It's important for the reduction of anxiety that we are between 30 and 70% of our maximal heart rate. Well, that's a pretty wide range. So we're really talking anywhere from, moderate to vigorous intensity. It does appear that moderate intensity exercise is the most effective. So this is just crazy for those of us who think that more exercise at greater intensity is always better. Indeed, for the reduction of anxiety, and we'll see the same for depression, it appears that moderate intensity exercise is probably the best. Even low intensity exercise can improve affect, mood, emotional state. So even just walking, which is good news, because sometimes people who are suffering depression also have, they might not feel like they want to get up and do a lot, right? They have reduced capacity. If you're a weightlifter, maybe you're a strength and conditioning coach, then we want to keep the heart rate between 30 and 50%. So you can definitely reduce the anxiety with other types of activity, but it's maybe a good idea then to wear a heart rate monitor or to stop and check your heart rate periodically. And of course, that can be accomplished by, more reps, lighter weights, fewer moments between sets, etc. So to keep the heart rate up is advantageous. Now, this next sentence is kind of tricky. So for state anxiety, taking some time to close your eyes and sit in the massage chairs at the SRWC, that can be very effective. But the exercise might last longer. It's just a bit of a different mechanism and is a better daily dose. I highly recommend the rest and relaxation. Do both. So it's effective for everybody. If you've got high levels of anxiety or your clients have high levels, this is very effective. If somebody has low levels of anxiety, this is very effective. Seriously, the easiest exercise prescription in the world. And really, any amount of time is helpful, but 30-minute bouts are probably most effective. So again, state anxiety could be reduced for a day, but for some people, it might be not as long as a day. So if you're explaining this to your client or patient, be transparent. If maybe they need to take a 20-minute walk in the morning and a 20-minute walk at night. These benefits are both psychological and physiological, and please always make sure you know those terms. If you're reading them, read them. Don't just jump past them. Often students mix up the two. And here it is. Anxiety reduction after exercise occurs regardless of intensity, duration, or type. Regardless of sex, level of fitness, level of activity, level of health, age, and etc., etc. It's just helpful. Now, talking about the adaptations due to exercise and their effects on anxiety, it can be very helpful used in conjunction with medication or therapy. So if someone has chronic anxiety, it's probably a good idea to be seen by a healthcare professional and use whatever tools are available to you. I like to think of self-care as being a banquet of options, and I get to choose a little here and a little there and try everything that works for me. I encourage you to do the same. Long-term exercise is usually associated with reduction in traits such as neuroticism and anxiety. There's all kinds of stress indicators. Neuromuscular tension, which is kind of that bad tension that I can feel in my shoulders right now, where your muscles are just super tight, and it's actually a physiological phenomenon, but it can reduce that neuromuscular tension. It does actually lower your resting heart rate and can have an effect on your stress hormones. Now, depression, it's a little bit of a more moderate relationship, but there is a relationship between exercise and depression. Now, remember, this is a correlation. It is correlated. We can't say it's cause and effect, and it doesn't work for everybody. So it's important to always remember that you don't use the word prove when you're talking about these things, because if it's proven, then we have to be able to point to studies that absolutely state without any other type of explanation that this causes that. And those kinds of things in exercise science are pretty hard to get to. But we have a strong relationship nonetheless. So many studies have shown that exercise can be as effective as psychotherapy, and yes, even medication. There are studies out there on the medication in reducing depression. Again, not for everybody, but for many people. And here we see that it is for everybody: age, health status, race, socioeconomic, and sexes. Again, both aerobic and anaerobic exercise. I mean, I really hate to be so simplistic, but it's the truth. Both aerobic and anaerobic exercise are associated with both acute and chronic reductions in depression scales. And remember that this is not our field. So unless you go get yourself some type of certification as a counselor or psychotherapist, make sure that you stay within your scope. And if you have a patient or client who's severely depressed and is not being seen, I highly recommend that you have some business cards to refer your patients and clients to, because we don't want to get in there and start doing things that are beyond our scope, legally and ethically. It can land you in a world of trouble and may cause harm. First, we cause no harm. Severe depression usually requires professional treatment, and it can include all of these things and all kinds of treatments, but exercise can be used as an adjunct. So we have a place here, a very important place. And I hope as you're thinking about your future as an exercise professional, that you'll keep in mind that you can also help with the mental health crisis in our world today. For depression, the acute responses may not be as immediate. There's probably going to be some psychological benefit, but the physiological benefits occur over time. So the training program is at least 9 weeks long. And this is important. If you've got a client that's very depressed and they're trying exercise in conjunction with other treatments, please set them up for reasonable expectations. It's going to take some time. And the challenge then is to keep them motivated to stay with their routine. And that's where you can be a great coach.